Coming up, a fatal accident claims the life of a Missouri woman.
Very spread out temperature-wise on our first day of March, but it's going to end up being a warm one. The latest from the Skywatch Weather Center.
And a liberal Missouri man takes a plea deal for his manslaughter charges.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It is 5 a.m. I'm Tanya Bach. We'll get to those stories in just a moment, but first, let's go to Michael Hayslip in the Skywatch Weather Center.
Tanya, look at this wide gap that we're experiencing right now. Joplin's off to a marvelous start where it's 46 degrees, but here if we bebop just a little bit to the west, we got a 20-degree difference, only 27 right now in Parsons, and just right down the highway, 37 in Oswego. Pretty consistent with our high 30s and low 40s throughout southwest Missouri. Miami below the freezing mark as well, only sitting at 30 degrees. So it really is just a matter of location on this Tuesday morning. It's going to end up being a nice day though. Wind once again moving in from the south-southwest. And we're going to have to talk about elevated fire concerns really for the rest of the week. Skywatch Storm Tracker, nary a cloud in sight with a weather trend that's actually going to be warmer than yesterday. When we got up to around 64 degrees at Joplin Regional Airport, we'll hit some 70s today. Whole lot of sunshine, just a great way to start the month of March and staying dry for really the rest of the week. Don't have anything to worry about until we get into the weekend, and that's really not much to say worry about. A little rain wants to kick in here on Saturday morning, so the rest of the work and school week looking great. A little bit of a cold front moves in after that, but the fact that we're able to stay above the 32-degree mark, that is the most positive aspect. With this being the first day of March, Miss Tanya, you know what that would indicate?
It's also Mardi Gras.
And the first day of
Spring.
Meteorological Spring. Yeah, there we go. We like to get jump started a little bit earlier in the Skywatch Weather Center. Yeah. We'll talk about meteorological and meteorological spring, where we stand precip wise, and what it means as far as everybody else going. What do you mean? It's not spring, Michael.
That's right. Well, it's your day to indulge. So tell us all you will.
It means we're one step closer to meteorological summer.
Yes, I'm ready. All right, thanks, Michael. A liberal Missouri man pleads guilty to manslaughter charges and is sentenced in connection with the death of an Oronogo woman in February last year. Ryan O'Neill gets 10 years in prison for first-degree involuntary manslaughter. Last year, O'Neill was driving a pickup on Highway 43 when he crashed head-on into an SUV. 23-year-old Sevy Davison was driving that SUV. She died at the hospital. A southwest Missouri woman is dead from an early Monday morning car crash. It happened on Lawrence County Road 1110, a mile west of Miller. 50-year-old Lori Reed of Miller, Missouri was a passenger in a car that left the road and overturned a little before 2 this morning. She was pronounced dead 90 minutes later. The driver was in serious condition. Oklahoma Congressman Markwayne Mullin says he'll run for the U.S. Senate seat that is coming open after Senator Jim Inhofe's surprise announcement that he's retiring before his term is up. Mullin said in a video message that he planned to enter the race as expected political shakeups began. Mullin is a plumbing company owner and citizen of the Cherokee Nation. He's currently serving his 5th term representing Oklahoma's 2nd congressional district. New CDC guidance might have folks wondering whether they should mask up. People living in areas where the COVID risk is low can now go without a mask or social distancing. The CDC outlined new guidelines with less emphasis on testing and more on what hospitals are seeing. Locally, some health experts say that in light of the declining case numbers here, they agree with the new guidance. In Newton County, daily cases have been in the single digits.
I think that, especially with our numbers as low as they are, that the public can be confident to go out and enjoy activities as normal without wearing the mask. Certainly if you have underlying conditions, you might want to continue to wear the mask, but overall, for healthy people, the mask would not be required.
There are currently only 6 active COVID cases in Newton County. A convoy rolled through the area yesterday en route to Washington, D.C. The miles-long group of trucks, RVs, vans, and other vehicles is called the People's Convoy. Left California 1 week ago, heading to Washington, calling for an end to the COVID national emergency that the group says led to overreaching mandates. The route was lined with supporters of the convoy, some even joining the convoy itself. People like Josh Reese, who brought his family down from Montana.
They're going all the way to DC. They're skipping out on their jobs and everything. And I've got a wife and 4 kiddos, and then my sister-in-law came along. So, it's been great. We just wanted to come for a couple days and support those guys and just let them know we love them and Montana's supporting them. And
the People's Convoy planned to stop Monday night in Cuba, Missouri, following a rally in St. Robert. From there, they'll continue their journey to our nation's capital, expecting to arrive on March 5th. Well, people gathered along overpasses along the interstate to show their support for the convoy. Some waved flags and handmade signs. One protester told us, quote, "It's our God-given right to do with our bodies as we please." Kansas musician saw his career receive quite a boost following an appearance on American Idol. Photojournalist Daniel Camp caught up with Nuke Bushner to find out where his career is headed.
6 a.m. Just got up to start the day. We started doing things. We started playing some shows, and I've traveled the country. I've been everywhere. I've been from the East Coast to the West Coast and played about every little bar you can imagine. Traveling through all these towns and stuff, it really feels good to when I pull up in a small town and I come to a bar and it's like the small town vibe, just like where I come from, and it's a good feeling. It ain't been long.
We're proud of Nuke. Just everything, the ups and downs he's had to go through to get where he's been, and has not gave up. You couldn't ask for a better guys. He doesn't give up.
My mom was kind of she was the rock of the whole family, and losing her, I would say it kind of made me go harder, because she said, well, I know you're going to make it big, but I might not be here to see it, and that hit me harder than hell.
I'm just super proud of him and just the way he's doing things. He's conquered a lot, ups and downs, and he's made it through the bottom all the way to, he's headed to the top.
Crazy thing is, I never thought that I would make it this far. I really didn't. Just coming from where I come from and from a small town, things like this don't happen. And it's long.
Definitely has talent. Well, today is a day that brings awareness to a problem most keep hidden. Today is Self-Injury Awareness Day. Self-Injury Awareness Day each year focuses on increasing education and support on a misunderstood problem. When someone causes deliberate self-injury or harm, the action is an indication of emotional distress. According to research from the Journal of American Board of Family Medicine, approximately 4% of Americans self-harm, with the majority of those being college students. The day aims to help friends and family recognize the signs and help those in emotional distress find help. It's 5:07.
I already feel like we're on a temperature roller coaster this morning. Everything's already frequently changing, but the fact of the matter is it's not a bad start to the first day of March, anywhere from, say about 34 up to 41. Here's our weather trend for today. Sunny skies and up around 70 degrees. It's going to be absolutely delightful. It is going to be windy, however. Coming in from the southwest, we're going to gust up to, say 30, 35 miles per hour. Elevated fire conditions, and that's kind of the soapbox that will be on weather-wise as far as watching that outdoor burning, not only for today, but really for the rest of the week.
That's a look at this morning's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News, Joplin hosts a tournament that kicked off yesterday and had some big games in the first round. We'll take a look. Plus, an American medical student studying in Poland looks to make a difference with Ukrainian refugees. And new guidance from the CDC aims to get life back to normal. We sent out our very own Bronte Sorotsky to talk to a local health department on what this means for the 4 states. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back.
Nord Stream 2. Class 6 District 5 tournament tipping off on the boys' side. Really big matchups in the first round as Joplin hosted the tournament this year. Hit the floor against Republic in the quarterfinal round. In the first, Always Right hands it off to All Right. Little pause before he knocks down the 3. 18 points for All Right last night. Later, Devin James, McMillan aggressive in the paint. Ooh, tough move right there. Gets bucket, falls, close game. Then in the third, big dunk. Check out Terrence Gibson. Punch it two-handed. Gibson 16 on the game. Excuse me, make it 18 because I forgot to tally up that dunk. Finally, always right to the basket to the score. Always had 13. Joplin beats Republic 63-53. In the late game, Carthage aiming for revenge against Ozark. That's because Ozark beat the Tigers by 20 earlier this month. Off the takeaway, Ethan Watley, two-handed jam, but the Tigers have an answer. His name is Clayton Kinder. Guess what? I'll give you your 2 and see you a 3. Tied at 13 after 1. Ozark goes on a run, then Jace Watley down low for 2. Ozark up 8. Carthage calls the timeout. Gives Max Templeman. Oh, look at that right hand. Drive to the basket and the finish. Templeman with 11, still trailing Joel Pugh inside. Pugh game high 20. But Carthage could not hang around as Ozark wins at 64-51. Pitt State baseball 2-0 in conference play. Gorillas swept the Lions in a doubleheader on Sunday. Yesterday, 2 teams back out on the field. Finale of the series. First inning, Tommy Stevenson. Right through the hole. Little CNI single for the single. Bases loaded for the Lions. Jordan Fitzpatrick hit by the pitch. He says, that's fine. I get the RBI. Clay Milas scores. Next batter, Henry Kusiak. Oh! Right up the middle. 2 runs come around to score. Southern up 3-0. Let's go to the second inning. Cole Woods on the mound. Boom. Boom. Trust me, he struck out the first one too. 6 innings, 13 strikeouts. Cade Clemens, solo shot to left center, gets the Gorillas within 1. But Southern says, nah, our bats are too much today as they pull away and win big. Final score 14-2. Missouri Southern 5-7 on the early season, looking to pick up a home win yesterday. Final day of the Terry Mathis Zinner Memorial Tournament. Southern hosting a pair of games against Northern State. Wolves go 3 up, 3 down in the first. Tara Amos with a strikeout for that final out. Bottom half of the inning, here comes the Lions offense. Leighton Withers. That's good enough to score not only Sidney Hurst, but also Josie Toppy. Next inning, first not done. More RBI opportunities, and they keep on coming in the form of singles right up the middle. Here comes Adriana Young, and then Ashlyn Williams on third after she tripled. Amos, there it is, right down the line. Southern shuts out Northern State in game 1. Final score 8-0. In game 2, Southern had to battle back, but comes out ahead. 5-3 winners, sweeping the doubleheader from Northern State. Josie Tope goes 2 for 4, 2 RBIs, 1 run. Yasmin Vargas and Ashlyn Williams both added 2 hits apiece. Pitt State with its final game of the Washburn Invitational as the Gorillas beat Minnesota Crookston 9-1. Taylor Lambert and Keela Griffith both with 2 hits apiece. Madison Zizmansky and Josie Solano drive in 2 runs apiece. Still to come on the KOAM Morning News, as Russia continues to invade and attack Ukraine, people flee into neighboring countries. We'll have the latest on how people are helping those who have lost everything due to the war. And a check on our 7-day forecast when the KOAM Morning News returns. Just past 5:17 on this Tuesday morning, and with it being the 1st of March, also what we call the beginning. Excuse me, I noticed that was a little awry there. We call this the beginning of meteorological spring. Now you should go, wait. I thought the beginning of spring was supposed to be March 20th, and that's the beginning of astronomical spring. Of course, astronomical seasons, they go by the equinoxes, the solstices, the sun and the moon. Meteorologically, just breaks it down, makes it actually a little bit more easier. So astronomical spring starts at March 20th. Meteorological spring starts March 1, runs March, April, June, and then for the 1st of July begins astronomical summer. July, August, September, et cetera, et cetera. And so that's actually why when we talk about moisture, especially when we talk about precipitation that we've picked up, you've been perhaps noticing that we go back to December 1. We've had this much rain since December 1. Well, that was the beginning of meteorological winter. And so just hope that makes everything a little less confusing. Probably not, but I'm doing my best here. 46 degrees right now over 7th and Rangeline. Pretty delightful start, but a wide variety of temperatures as well. as we've really spread anywhere from 27s that we're seeing in Neodesha and Parsons. Joplin, one of our warm spots there at 46, and Carthage right behind, chiming in at 44. Miami also below the freezing mark, but a 24-hour temperature change. Go back to this time on Monday, that last day of February, and still a substantial increase for what we ended our last month with. Skywatch storm tracker, very, very clean. This is radar being a little bit finicky there when it comes off the sweeping radar, so really no precipitation because we're going to be abnormally dry. We're clinging to a little bit of relative humidity right here, but eventually we'll be overtaken by our dry spots, and so elevated fire concerns will be the risk for really the rest of the week. Still got that low pressure system hanging off the Pacific Northwest. I think it's really not going to move. Any movement that it does have will be along the border, and things have really calmed down in the deep southeastern portion of the U.S. as well. Afternoon planner for us into the 70s, absolutely delightful. And then as we push into the nighttime hours, remaining dry, clear, and just great start to the month of March as a whole. Now, eventually, we're going to be talking about needing a little bit of rain. We'll check in with the drought monitor here in just a little bit, but we're just going to throw up wonderful temperatures all the way through the week. And it is going to be windy. The wind is not going to want to die down. That's why we're the recipient of above average temperatures. Still should only be in the 50s this time of year. So the fact that we're clocking in right now around 70, our average high should be about 54. So look at that Wednesday temperature. You see that 20 degrees above normal right there. Time now for our Something to Talk About on the KOAM News Now Facebook page and our morning Insta poll. As Russia's invasion of Ukraine creates a massive refugee crisis, Ukrainians fleeing the violence, crossing into neighboring countries, and one of those countries is Poland, where an American medical student is one of many doing what he can to help the refugees. Brian Johnson with the story.
Stand with Ukraine! Stand with Ukraine!
This message is heard around the world, and people are responding.
Everyone's just kind of come together in such a way that I never even really thought possible.
Joanna Rack is a U.S. med student finishing her degree in Krakow, Poland. It's where thousands of refugees are fleeing the conflict in Ukraine. She captured these images of the local town square where people sing the Ukrainian national anthem to show support.
Basically, a few days ago, I was like, how can I help personally?
She purchased these toiletries and supplies after doing a fundraiser on social media.
I just shared my Venmo and was just overwhelmed with support.
Rack and her friend raised $6,000. They filled baskets and suitcases to take to a local refugee aid station.
But there's constant flow of people coming in.
This is where refugees are coming to pick up supplies.
Poland knows its history with war and oppression and everything. Just the USSR was not even 40 years ago.
Rack will house a refugee woman fleeing the conflict. People are helping the best way they know how.
Definitely an unexpected turn of events here, but we're doing everything we can.
UNICEF, the Red Cross, and Doctors Without Borders are doing great work in the area. She emphasized the importance of individuals sending donations or sharing verified news sources. Our Something to Talk About on the KOAM Insta poll asking, how do you think we should help Ukraine? Give you 4 options to choose from. Connect to us via our Facebook page. Go directly to the poll, koamnewsnow.com/vote. Or if you have your phone handy, as we do each and every morning, give you a picture of our QR code. You snap a picture of that on your phone and it delivers you to the poll. We'll be back with Health Watch next.
Guidance from the CDC is aimed at helping communities across the country get back to a normal life. KOAM's Bronte Sorotsky spoke with a local health expert and has more.
New guidance from the CDC is offering people a different strategy to get back to a normal life. They suggest that Americans living in low COVID risk areas can go maskless in public. But the new guidelines recommend masking in counties at high risk and ask to reconsider how to measure the needs for things such as mask wearing. In Newton County, the health department has seen cases on a downward trend.
Over the last couple of weeks, we've seen a steady decline in our cases, new cases per day. We're actually in the single digits. We had been in the 20s, and then we went kind of just below 20.
Across the country, cases are on the decline as well. School children in California, Oregon, and Washington will no longer be required to wear masks as part of new indoor mask policies. While guidance seems to constantly be changing, Bergner says it has to do with the numbers changing.
I think it will. CDC, when numbers spike, they have a tendency to go with masks and social distancing.
Due to low cases locally, Bergner says that the new guidance is in line with Newton County's numbers.
So I think that, especially with our numbers as low as they are, that the public can be confident to go out and enjoy activities as normal without wearing the mask. Certainly if you have underlying conditions, you might want to continue to wear the mask, but overall, for healthy people, the mask would not be required.
And while numbers have remained low for a few weeks in the county, Bergner recommends taking the time to enjoy it. In Neosho, Bronte Sorotsky, KOAM News.
There are currently only 6 active COVID cases in Newton County. Consistently exercising might have more benefits than expected. A recent study published by the British Journal of Sports Medicine shows engaging in 30 to 60 minutes of exercise weekly can reduce the risk of heart disease and death. Researchers analyzed data of more than 500,000 people and found the risk for illnesses like diabetes and cancer or any other medical cause were reduced by roughly 10 to 17%. CDC suggests lifting weights, push-ups, and even squats can be a good addition to your routine. That's a look at some of today's top health stories. You're watching the KOAM Morning News.
Great, no more skipping leg day, huh? Temperatures a wide range, as low as 28 in Neodesha, as high as 46 right now in Joplin. Eventually, it's going to be a delightful afternoon, no matter where you are, as we will be up around the 70s. We'll break down our first week of March right after this.
Coming up, a fatal accident claims the life of a Missouri woman.
If you like the way that February ended, just wait until you check out the temperatures that we've got to begin the month of March. All the latest from the Skywatch Weather Center.
And a liberal Missouri man takes a plea deal for his manslaughter charges.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It is 5:30. I'm Tanya Bach. We'll get to those stories in just a moment, but first, let's go to Michael Hayslip. And guess what? It's spring.
Meteorological spring, it is. It is the first day of March, and to clarify what Tanya's saying, astronomical spring, of course, is Sunday, March the 20th. We do our astronomical seasons with our solstices and our equinoxes. We like to, and I'm just going to call it what it is, we dumb it down a little bit when it comes to meteorological seasons. We begin with the first of the month, roll March, April, and May for spring, June, July, August for summer, et cetera, et cetera. Just gives you an easier starting point and a benchmark and basis when it comes to precipitation, average temperatures and whatnot. Speaking of temperatures, topped out around 63, 64 degrees at Joplin Regional Airport yesterday, and a great looking beginning to the month of March. If you can, step outside, look to your south-southeast. Not only have Venus still visible, but now starting to get a great shot of Mars as well. Temperatures 27 in Parsons, compare that to 46 in Joplin. We are all over the place. 30 in Miami, still below the freezing point, and in Carthage already up to 44. And we're not talking geographically that much of a difference between those places, but a wide gap in our temperatures. Wind will come in from the south-southwest. Elevated fire conditions once again because we stay on the dry side. And a weather trend for today, like I said, if you liked yesterday, today, throw up some 70s on the board. Absolutely great. About 17, 18 degrees above normal. Future track keeps us dry, not only for today, but all the way through the rest of the work and school week, as we really don't see any rain pop up until Saturday into Sunday. Next cold front is Sunday into Monday, but coming off of what we had last week, number one, that cold front's not impressive. Number two, the fact that we can ride 70s here to begin the new month, not bad.
I'm digging the start to this.
This is actually March last year is when we started that record-setting rainfall that seemingly carried us all the way through April.
Can't complain about that.
Yeah, let's enjoy this.
Enjoy the first few days of, first full week really, of
this crazy good.
Meteorological spring.
Crazy good. Interested to see on the sky camera there, because it's just still, yeah, we do. Hey Dylan, or Tim, I'm sorry, Tim. Can you pop up tower cam for me there real fast, Joplin? We still got some snow out there. Look at see the very bottom? Here.
Yeah, just a little bit there.
Look at that. Still holding on to it. Gives you an idea of that depth that was all piled up.
It's self-insulated.
Right.
So it's taking a little while. All right, thanks, Michael. Well, a Southwest Missouri woman is dead from an early Monday morning car crash. It happened on Lawrence County Road 1110, a mile west of Miller. 50-year-old Lori Reed, of Miller, Missouri, was a passenger in a car that left the road and overturned a little before 2 yesterday morning. She was pronounced dead 90 minutes later. The driver was in serious condition. A liberal Missouri man pleads guilty to manslaughter charges and is sentenced in connection with the death of an Oronogo woman in February of last year. Ryan O'Neill gets 10 years in prison for first-degree involuntary manslaughter. Last year, O'Neill was driving a pickup on Highway 43 when he crashed head-on into an SUV. 23-year-old Sevy Davison was driving that SUV. She died at the hospital. People's Convoy makes its way into the 4 states, 1,000 plus and growing. A convoy that started from California last week continues its trek across the nation. The group is demanding government accountability and wants to end the pandemic. KOAM's Shannon Becker caught up with the convoy as it passed through Joplin yesterday.
Yeah, thanks. We're at the Joplin Regional Stockyards, County Road 100 in Jasper County, and a big crowd of people welcoming the People's Convoy as they enter Missouri from Oklahoma. Over the weekend here at the Joplin Regional Stockyards, Ozark Crane set up a American flag to welcome the People's Convoy. It was a big crowd, about 150 they were estimating here on the County Road 100 bridge. Carthage Fire Department helped with the traffic control on the bridge. And from here, the convoy travels on to Springfield, and then they'll stop and spend the night in St. Robert, Cuba, Missouri area. It took about a half an hour for it to completely roll through the entire area. And shortly afterwards, at exit 47, there was actually a traffic crash in the middle of the convoy. No one was injured, but 2 tractor trailers were damaged, and the convoy stopped for a period of time, still in traffic currently. Moms and dads, kids, supporting truckers, the People's Convoy. I'm Shannon Becker on I-44, the People's Convoy in Jasper County for KOAM News.
Well, this morning we are discussing helping Ukraine. Meet Joanna Rack. She's an American student in Poland. She's in Krakow finishing up her medical degree. So when the war came to Ukraine, she wanted to help out the refugees who were fleeing into Poland. She's even purchased supplies for those who were uprooted in the conflict. And that brings us to our something to talk about. We want to know, how do you think we should help Ukraine? With armed forces continue as we are, or we shouldn't be as well? I am too far away from the camera to read those results. Can you help me out there, Michael?
I got it. Iced tea was going. And my nose was running back.
Oh, I just realized I magically got a monitor here today that hasn't been here in months.
Right now, with armed forces leads the way with 58%. 21% say continue as we are. Other with 14%, and then 7% say we shouldn't be there.
There you go.
Earlier in the morning, when I first checked in before we even did results, with armed forces was at 75%.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's going down. Continue as we are is going up. Okay, check of the forecast.
Sunny skies, temps in the 70s. You're going to hear us bang the drum all week long from the Skywatch Weather Center about elevated fire concerns. Humidity will continue to drop and temperatures will be abnormally warm, and that is because the wind will continually blow from the south-southwest. Don't have to worry about a cold front till next week.
And that's a look at our top news stories. Coming up this half hour in the KOAM Morning News, the pandemic has changed how people shop, and this includes causing stores in malls to close down. We're going to have how they're changing to attract more people into them. Plus, it's day 6 of the Russian invasion in Ukraine. As Russia gets closer to Kyiv, the International Court plans to open an investigation into possible war crimes. We'll have the latest. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back. Topping World Watch, as the Russian invasion of Ukraine stretches into the 6th day, the UN estimates more than 500,000 people have already fled to safety. They're being met with blankets, open arms, and at one crossing, a hot meal from a celebrity chef. Riley Carlson reports from London.
These are bittersweet reunions for people fleeing Ukraine. Happy to see friends and family, but devastated to leave home. Many of those coming to Poland are packing onto trains with only the possessions they can carry. Some people were standing for 3 days because they couldn't get a seat, says this woman who traveled from Kyiv.
The people don't stop arriving. People are cold, families are cold.
World-renowned chef and humanitarian Jose Andres has brought his World Central Kitchen to the Polish border. They're serving thousands of hot meals at several crossings in Poland and Romania. The effort is also supporting chefs inside Odessa, Ukraine, where fighting is underway.
There's many ways to fight. Some people fight just making sure that people are fed.
Those who've made it out are hearing it's getting more difficult to leave.
When we are crossing, there was maybe 100, 200 person, but right now it's maybe 3,000 person.
And they worry about those staying behind.
Everyone keeps crying. Because he lives their father.
They'll try to stay in touch and hope the war ends soon. Riley Carlson, CBS News, London.
The European Union is preparing to grant Ukrainians who flee the war the right to stay and work for up to 3 years. It's also sending help to border countries to help with arrivals. Toyota suspends all domestic factory operations in Japan. Toyota lost 13,000 cars yesterday after a company supplying it plastic parts and electronic components was hit by a suspected cyber attack. Now, the attack came after Japan joined its Western allies in clamping down on Russia due to its invasion of Ukraine. However, it's not clear if the attack is related to that. Negotiators from Ukraine and Russia ended a first round of talks with no breakthrough. Both sides have agreed to conduct a second round soon as attacks inside Ukraine continue. The financial sanctions much of the Western world have levied against Russia are already having a major crippling effect on its economy. Laura Podesta has the latest.
Now in its 6th day, the war between Russia and Ukraine is not slowing. Satellite imagery shows a 40-mile Russian convoy moving closer to Ukraine's capital of Kyiv. Overnight, more than 70 Ukrainian soldiers were killed on a base near Kharkiv, according to an official from the region. More than 500,000 people, many of them elderly and children, have left Ukraine, according to the UN Refugee Agency. This packed bus arrived in Athens overnight. Russians are finding themselves increasingly isolated by tough economic sanctions. The ruble is plummeting. It's worth less now than 1 U.S. penny. The country's stock exchange remains closed today for a second day to stave off losses. Attempts at diplomacy continue. French President Emmanuel Macron spoke with Russian President Vladimir Putin yesterday, pleading with him to stop the attack. President Biden at this time is not engaging with Putin.
We're not ruling it out ever. It just is not the appropriate moment or the moment for the United States president to have a conversation with the president of a country invading a sovereign country.
As images continue to emerge of attacks injuring civilians, the prosecutor of the International Criminal Court says he's launching an investigation into possible war crimes and crimes against humanity. Laura Podesta, CBS News.
Ukraine is urgently applying to become a member of the European Union, which, if accepted, may help the status of Ukrainian refugees and European countries. It would also be a symbolic membership to show Putin that Ukraine is a part of the West. That's a look at some of your biggest headlines from around the world. We'll be right back with the news you need to know before you head out the door. Here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. A Southwest Missouri woman is dead from an early Monday morning car crash. It happened on Lawrence County Road 1110, a mile west of Miller. 50-year-old Lori Reed of Miller, Missouri was a passenger in a car that left the road and overturned a little before 2 a.m. yesterday morning. She was pronounced dead 90 minutes later. The driver was in serious condition. A liberal Missouri man pleads guilty to manslaughter charges and is sentenced in connection with the death of an Oronogo woman in February of last year. Ryan O'Neill gets 10 years in prison for first-degree involuntary manslaughter. Last year, O'Neill was driving a pickup on Highway 43 when he crashed head-on into an SUV. 23-year-old Sevy Davison was driving that SUV. she died at the hospital. BP wants to appeal a court's decision that allowed Mulberry, Kansas to sue over soaring natural gas prices last year. BP filed 2 documents last week that indicate it wants to shut down a lawsuit filed by the small Crawford County town. One document seeks permission to appeal a February 8th ruling by Chief District Judge Lori Bolton Fleming before the case goes to trial. In that ruling, Fleming removed the Mulberry city government from the lawsuit but allowed individual residents to proceed with the action, which claims BP's price hikes during a deep freeze in February of 2021 were price gouging. The second court document outlines BP's belief that it cannot be sued by the residents because they do not buy their gas directly from BP. Oklahoma Congressman Markwayne Mullins says he will run for the U.S. Senate seat that is coming open after Senator Jim Inhofe's surprise announcement that he's retiring before his term is up. Mullins said in a video statement that he planned to enter the race as expected political shakeups begin. Mullins is a plumbing company owner and citizen of the Cherokee Nation. He's currently serving his 5th term representing Oklahoma's 2nd congressional district. That's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door.
Regional temperatures give us an idea about how the cold front has now receded into the upper plains in our first full week of March. They're going to provide us with temperatures well above normal. The fact that even up to the north up there in Kansas City, they're starting out at 40 degrees. Now, it's interesting to point out that we've got places that are substantially below the 40-degree mark that we were just talking about. As a matter of fact, still waiting on places like Neodesha, Parsons, Miami to even get up to freezing. Southwest Missouri has been substantially warmer, from 39 in Neosho, 41s in Lamar and Monette. Get a little bit down to the south right there, and Anderson's only at 33, but that's kind of to be expected. Our southerly temperatures have been a little bit cooler. If you'll notice, Miami and Grove only at 30. Skywatch storm tracker looking great, not only for us, but got a nice high pressure system hanging out to the northwest, keeping those clouds way off to the east and down to the south. As a matter of fact, the entire contiguous 48 remains rather quiet on this Tuesday morning. Got low pressure that's kicked in off the Pacific Northwest, providing them with a fair amount of rain. Be nice if a little bit of the West Coast could receive some of that. We're not going to see it drop too much. It'll actually just kind of ride the Canadian-U.S. border. Down in the deep southeast, not a whole lot of action going on either. Here in the 4 states, an afternoon planner with temps in the low 70s. My goodness. Now, we do have elevated fire conditions because it remains so dry and breezy, and that is going to be a familiar refrain for the rest of this week, the fire worries, because our temps remain steady, and with that comes that south wind. Really don't have to pick up any rain until Saturday night into Sunday, and really by that point in time, we're going to be needing some of it. And we'll be back with more KOAM Morning News right after this.
Shopping malls were losing business even before the pandemic, and in the past couple of years, many department stores have shut down, and now those empty spaces are getting a facelift to bring in new business. Michael George reports.
Like many Americans, Savon Michael's shopping habits have changed in the last 2 years.
Actually, because of the pandemic, I've not been going to the malls as much.
Malls struggling to attract shoppers as online shopping continues to grow are ready to experiment. At Tyson's Galleria outside Washington, D.C., a former Macy's department store has been transformed into a new dining and entertainment wing with options like bowling.
I think the consumer coming out of the pandemic is just looking to be out and experiencing life in a more normalized way.
In Rochester, New York, the Marketplace Mall is turning a shuttered Sears into a large healthcare facility, reimagining what a mall can be. American Dream here in New Jersey may be one model for the new shopping mall. Yes, it's got stores, but more than half the space is devoted to family attractions and entertainment. That includes a theme park with roller coasters, a water park, and an ice rink.
Shopping malls are evolving, and when you look at American Dream, this was part of the brainchild from the very beginning, is creating an experience that was different.
American Dream opened just 5 months before the pandemic. And the hope is traffic will pick up now that coronavirus cases are easing.
They've changed.
Stephanie Sigelski with the International Council of Shopping Centers says the strategy is offering an experience people can't get online.
We're seeing everything from fitness, from gyms, from movie theaters going into some of those large boxes, to educational facilities.
Shopping centers finding new life by adapting to consumers who want more than just shopping. Michael George, CBS News, East Rutherford, New Jersey.
I think every mall should have an amusement park. That'd be awesome. We'll be right back with one final look at your forecast.
Sure was hard to beat yesterday as we got up to about 63, 64 degrees at Joplin Regional Airport. Now, even though we're going to have a great looking start to March, we'd have to get up to 87 degrees today to break the record for March 1. Dates back to 2006, that's right, 87 degrees, but our average high should only be about 54. So we're going to be well above that. Temperatures are still all over the place from 28 to 46, so we're still waiting on those to stabilize quite a bit. Skywatch storm tracker looking absolutely great throughout the entire Midwest. Sunny skies, south wind up into the low 70s today, and that's a trend that we're going to be able to keep around all the way through the work and school week. Going to get spoiled here for the first week of March. Our 70s, even Friday, high 69, we'll throw some low 70s up there. Really going to persist widespread until we get to Sunday. We'll talk about the beginning of March here when we return right after this.
Coming up, an early Monday morning car crash takes the life of a Southwest Missouri woman.
Even though it's going to be a warm week, we'll stop short of some records, but it's time to break down what we anticipate for the month of March, the latest from the Skywatch Weather Center.
And a liberal Missouri man gets 10 years in prison for first-degree involuntary manslaughter.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It is 6 a.m. I'm Tanya Bach. We'll get to those stories in just a moment. But first, let's talk about this warm-up in the weather with Michael Hayslip.
Give it another half hour, Tanya, and we'll start to see the skies lighten over 7th and Range Line in Joplin. Let's talk about March 1 because it is the beginning of what we refer to as Meteorological Spring. And now this is just an easier way for your weather people to break it down. It runs from March 1 to May 31st, and then for June 1 into June, July, August becomes meteorological summer. But of course, the astronomical spring, you may be going, hey, wait, March 1 isn't the beginning of spring, because most people go with astronomical spring, and that begins with our spring equinox that takes place on Sunday, March 20th, officially at 10:33. But the reason that this has come into existence is it normalizes the number of days of the season and also coincides with our typical temperature cycles. In between our equinoxes and our solstices could have anywhere from 89 to 93 days, and while taking 3-month spans is not exactly the same each and every time, it does kind of eliminate it down to about a day, 2 days at the most. So that's why meteorological spring exists. Daily Almanac for today, even though we're going to be talking about a fair amount of warmth this week, still stopping short of any records. Have to get up to 87 degrees that dates back to 2006. But at the same time, even with some chilly temps that find themselves below the freezing mark on this Tuesday morning, we're going to cruise above that with sunny skies, south wind, and make it up into the 70s here later on this afternoon. Elevated fire concerns throughout the duration of our week with that humidity dropping so much, but a 7-day forecast that's absolutely delightful. Get to ride this all the way through the weekend, even Saturday when we present a little needed rain into Sunday, and the cold front from Sunday into Monday. Still not too bad considering the interspersed cold fronts that brought us the precipitation and the negative numbers during the month of February.
I'm just going to dig 3 days in the 70s in a row. I mean, Friday you might as well call 72.
Well, yesterday was great.
Yeah.
We run that through Saturday because a little rain's shouldn't slow you down if it's 70 degrees outside.
Right.
So yeah, we're gonna run easily about 6 consecutive days here of great weather.
If you needed to get some outdoor yard work done, this is the week to do it, as long as it dries first.
I was gonna say probably gotta wait one more. Well, you're the expert on this because of your backyard.
I've still got snow in my backyard. It's so shaded.
You haven't even got to the mud aspect of it then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still working on that. All right, thanks, Michael. Well, guilty plea leads to a manslaughter conviction for a liberal Missouri man and his connection to the death of an Oronogo woman in February of last year. Ryan O'Neill gets 10 years in prison for first-degree involuntary manslaughter. Last year, O'Neill was driving a pickup on Highway 43 when he crashed head-on into an SUV. 23-year-old Sevie Davison was driving that SUV. She died at the hospital. An early Monday morning car crash takes the life of a Southwest Missouri woman. It happened on Lawrence County Road 1110, a mile west of Miller. 50-year-old Lori Reed of Miller, Missouri, was a passenger in a car that left the road and overturned a little before 2 yesterday morning. She was pronounced dead 90 minutes later. The driver was in serious condition. CDC issues new COVID-19 mask guidelines as pandemic numbers continue to trend down. People living in areas where the COVID risk is low can now go without a mask or social distancing. CDC outlined new guidelines with less emphasis on testing and more on what hospitals are seeing. Locally, some health experts say in light of declining case numbers here, they agree with the new guidance. In Newton County, daily cases have been in the single digits.
I think that, especially with our numbers as low as they are, that the public can be confident to go out and enjoy activities as normal without wearing the mask. Certainly if you have underlying conditions, you might want to continue to wear the mask, but overall, for healthy people, the mask would not be required.
There are currently only 6 active COVID cases in Newton County. Well, the Russian invasion into Ukraine enters its 6th day, and the ongoing conflict is causing hundreds of thousands to seek shelter in neighboring countries. David Spunt has more on the escalating refugee crisis brewing in Europe.
The Russian invasion of Ukraine triggering what could be a refugee crisis as hundreds of thousands desperately try and secure passage out of war zones to keep their families safe.
There was a big traffic jam. We were there with the children, but there were volunteers. They gave us a tea and food.
More than 500,000 refugees have already escaped Ukraine, according to Monday's estimates from the United Nations, with neighboring Poland absorbing much of the flow, receiving at least 281,000 evacuees. Meanwhile, more than 153,000 have collectively poured into Hungary, Moldova, and Romania as of Monday.
It is so scary. You don't know what will happen.
Greece and Germany also starting to see an influx of refugees.
It was really hard with lots of tears and fatigue.
Back in the United States, New York is also extending a warm embrace. The Empire State is home to the largest Ukrainian population in the U.S. Governor Kathy Hochul is promising those fleeing Russian troops sanctuary.
We'll open up our hearts, our homes, our resources to the people of the Ukraine to say, we stand with you.
And refugee numbers are expected to skyrocket. UN officials are predicting at least 4 million people will leave Ukraine in the coming weeks as Russian troops continue their assault. Well, BP appeals a court's decision allowing Mulberry, Kansas to sue the company over soaring natural gas prices last year. BP, or British Petroleum, filed 2 documents last week that indicate it wants to shut down a lawsuit filed by the small Crawford County town. One document seeks permission to appeal a February 8th ruling by Chief District Judge Lori Bolton Fleming before the case goes to trial. In that ruling, Fleming removed the Mulberry city government from the lawsuit, but allowed individual residents to proceed with the action, which claims BP's price hikes during a deep freeze in February of 2021 were price gouging. The second court document outlines BP's belief that it cannot be sued by the residents because they do not buy their gas directly from BP. Well, child actor and filmmaker Ron Howard was born on this day back in 1954. Born in Duncan, Oklahoma, Howard's career as a child actor began in the movie Frontier Woman when he was only 18 months old. It would be a few years later, in 1960, when Howard appeared as Opie Taylor on the long-running TV series The Andy Griffith Show. Howard would also go on to star on another popular series, Happy Days, but it would be directing where Howard would truly make his mark. His first feature film, Grand Theft Auto, debuted in 1978. Since then, he has gone on to direct over 20 films, including The Da Vinci Code, A Beautiful Mind, Backdraft, Splash, and Apollo 13. He turned 68 years old today.
Found it interesting that Da Vinci Code turned up in like the laundry list of great Ron Howard movies. Little Opie Cunningham.
Aww.
For those of you that remember the Saturday Night Live joke with him. take off between Richie Cunningham and Opie Taylor.
Oh, okay.
So Eddie Murphy referred to him as Little Opie Cunningham.
Okay, I see.
7-day
Quite a
forecast with delightful temperatures up into the 70s for the rest of the week. A lot of sunshine, a lot of wind as well. It'll come in from the south at 30 to 35 miles per hour.
All right, that's a look at this morning's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News, Robert Pattinson dons the cape and cowl in the latest big screen version of The Batman. Plus, KOAM's Chris Warner got an up-close look yesterday at what some are calling the People's Convoy. He'll give us the details. And the CDC uses 3 metrics to determine COVID-19 precautions, and things are looking up. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back. Topping Nation Watch this morning, a convoy of trucks, buses, RVs, and a number of other vehicles rolled through the 4 states on Monday. KOAM's Chris Warner caught up with the People's Convoy in Veneta and has more.
Mary Van Til checked her truck early Monday morning before hitting the open road again with the People's Convoy. She drove up from Florida in a company-sponsored truck specially wrapped for the drive. While she joined up in Oklahoma City, the convoy itself started in California en route to Washington, D.C. The convoy is protesting the COVID national emergency.
Well, I think it's been going on long enough, and the state of emergency, the mandates, everybody's already back to normal life, so it's time that Washington sees that as well.
Van Til and the other drivers rolled up I-44 out of Veneta. Along the way, they ran into a number of people lining overpasses, waving flags, and showing support for the convoy.
It's amazing. It's amazing how many people are like-minded, how many people actually came out to support us.
Some supporters decided to join up mid-convoy. Josh Reese brought his family down from Montana and caught up with the convoy Sunday in Elk City, Oklahoma.
It was so early, we decided to skip out on the hotel that morning, but slept in the car for maybe an hour, and just joined up, and boy, it's been amazing.
Reese says they joined to show the truckers they're not alone.
They're going all the way to DC, they're skipping out on their jobs and everything, and I've got a wife and 4 kiddos, and then my sister-in-law came along, so it's been great. We just wanted to come for a couple days and support those guys, and just let them know we love them, and Montana's supporting them. And
along I-44 in Oklahoma and Missouri. Chris Warner, KOAM News.
The People's Convoy will be stopping Monday night, what stopped last night in Cuba, Missouri, following a rally in St. Robert. From there, it'll continue the journey to our nation's capital, expecting to arrive on March 5th. California authorities say 5 people are dead in a murder-suicide shooting. Police say a father shot 3 of his children and his wife inside a Sacramento church before turning the gun on himself. The children were all under the age of 15. It happened Monday just after 5 p.m. Police originally shut down roads nearby, but later said it was a domestic incident and posed no further risk to the public. No other details have been released. We'll have more on this story at 7 o'clock when we switch over to Fox 14. Jury selection is underway in the first federal trial for a person charged in the January 6th Capitol insurrection. Defendant Guy Reffitt is facing 5 charges. Prosecutors say he brought a gun to the insurrection, battled police, and threatened his children to keep quiet when he returned home to Texas after the attack. Federal prosecutors questioned 34 potential jurors on Monday. Many D.C. residents still have strong feelings about the attack. Some potential jurors were dismissed because of how strongly they felt. Witness testimony could begin Tuesday or Wednesday. That's a look at today's top national stories. We'll be right back.
Twilight actor Rob Pattinson, no longer Robert, I guess, Rob Pattinson, donning the cape and cowl of the Batman in his latest big screen role. Our man Rick DeMiguela with a preview.
When that light hits the sky, it's not just a call. It's a warning.
Robert Pattinson fights the criminal element of Gotham City in The Batman.
I'm vengeance.
The difference with this movie and a lot of the other ones, like normally the only time anyone else in Gotham sees Batman is either just before they get punched in the face or like they're in a dark alley or something. And in this, he's interacting with people a lot.
If we don't stand up, no one will.
You got a lot of cats.
I have a thing about strays.
He's joined by new takes on familiar characters.
I think it's really beautiful how much this character means to people, and I had to focus on making her a three-dimensional person, and I really think that this character deserves to be, to be seen in a different light.
I sort of couldn't believe my luck that not only was it a Batman film, which I think is the coolest, but it was a real film. Like, it was a spectacle, but it was emotional and thematically powerful.
It's really a plot-driven film, and Gordon being lieutenant is still a cop on the street, which allows him to be active in the middle of things alongside Batman in a way that for me was exciting.
Justice. The answer's justice.
In Hollywood, I'm Rick Damigella.
Commenting during that interview there, Zoe Kravitz, I tell you what, you want to talk about a spinning image of her mother. The older she gets, that is something else, and she's amazing too. Current conditions over 7th and Rangeline, 46 degrees is where we stand right now. That humidity is going to play a key factor in our weather. Now, it's going to be the lack of the humidity that's going to play a key role, but a 24-hour temperature change right now, minus Parsons, that is still considerably warmer than what we had yesterday, but still a wide variety as well. 20-degree difference in between Parsons and Joplin alone. We've seen Carthage now kick up to 46 degrees. Let's go 40 in Monette. Miami still waiting to get to the 32-degree mark. Skywatch storm tracker remains clear, and it will here for the next several days. We've got a little swath of humidity that cuts from northeast Oklahoma up through southeast Kansas, northern portion of southwest Missouri, but eventually we're going to be overtaken by all this dry air that is up to the northwest of us, and that's going to happen despite the fact it seems a little counterintuitive that all our wind blows in from the southwest. Jet stream will keep everything up in the Pacific Northwest as far as any storm systems go. We're going to say dry, sunny, and windy all the way through our first week of March. Next shot for some rain, some needed rain. We need to get to the drought monitor here in just a little bit. Will be Saturday into Sunday. A little bit of a cold front for Sunday into Monday, but considering what we had there for certain middle of the weeks of February, that's not too bad at all. We'll be back with more KOAM Morning News right after this.
Topping Health Watch this morning, the CDC is updating the metrics it uses to determine COVID-19 precautions on the community level, now basing them on 3 pieces of data: new COVID-19 hospitalizations, hospital capacity, and new COVID-19 cases. The agency is also dropping strong mask recommendations for most of the country. Daryl Forges breaks down the new guidance from the CDC.
A potential step toward life beyond COVID. The CDC releasing new guidance relying on what they call community levels of disease. This comes as the number of new COVID-19 cases continues to plummet nationwide, leading the agency to also ease guidance on mask mandates.
This updated approach focuses on directing our prevention efforts towards protecting people at high risk for severe illness and preventing hospitals and healthcare systems from being overwhelmed.
With some states already making changes in the past weeks based on community transmission, hospitalization data, and vaccination rates, the CDC says people living in counties at the low level will be advised that they do not need to wear a mask indoors. People living in counties at the medium level will be advised that they should talk to their doctor about masking indoors if they're at increased risk. And people living in counties at the high level will be advised that they should wear masks indoors.
So it's about education and vaccinations versus mandates and beating the drum on it every day.
While some are pushing for some type of normalcy,
personally, I just as soon take off the mask now.
Others are still not taking any chances.
I think it's still a good idea that everybody wears their mask, being that COVID still is around, it's still in existence.
I'm Daryl Forges reporting.
CDC highlights that those who are vaccinated and boosted have a lower risk of contracting COVID and noted there are more tools to fight the virus, such as testing, high-quality masks, and new treatments. A combination of hospital and at-home antibiotic therapy may be the best way to treat endocarditis in some patients. A study published in JAMA found patients experiencing this life-threatening inflammation of the heart valves associated with illegal drug use had better long-term outcomes when they completed their treatment at home. Doctors say the outpatient approach saves lives and is more cost-effective. New research in China suggests fond memories can help relieve pain, or at least the perception of pain. The study found nostalgia decreases activity in pain-related brain areas. Doctors hope nostalgia may be used as a drug-free tool to help alleviate headaches and other low-level pain. Well, just 30 minutes to an hour of muscle strengthening every week may help you live longer. It's leg day, Michael. Research published in the British Journal of Sports Medicine finds activities like weightlifting, push-ups, and even heavy gardening led to a 10 to 20% lower risk of death from all causes, and particularly from cancer, diabetes, and heart issues. That's a look at some of today's top health stories. You're watching the KOAM Morning News.
Trying to hit the play button, but my triceps got a little caught up there. I'm good now. Here's our temperatures, still widespread. Parsons and Neodesha, that little line right there, have consistently been in the mid-20s all morning long, and Joplin has been hanging around 46. So even though we're spread out here, let the sunshine and the south wind really kick in, and we'll all end up in the 70s by this afternoon. We'll break down the middle of the week in our first week of March right after this.
Coming up, an early Monday morning car crash takes the life of a Southwest Missouri woman.
As we turn the calendar to the first day of March, a gorgeous start and warm weather ahead. We'll have the latest from the Skywatch Weather Center.
And a liberal Missouri man gets 10 years in prison for first-degree involuntary manslaughter.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It is 6:30 a.m. I'm Tanya Bach. We'll get to those stories in just a moment, but first, let's focus on these temperatures this week, Michael.
Look at that, Tanya. Isn't that a glorious sight? That's outside of the mothership here. We've seen Old Glory shift, the wind indicating it's blowing in from the south, and there we are over 7th and Rangeline. The reason we tilted the camera down is we were talking about the snowpack still existing in the parking lot right across the street, but with temperatures that are making their way up into the 70s on this being the first day of meteorological spring. The snowpack will be a thing of the past here relatively soon. You go, wait a second. Spring begins on Sunday, March the 20th at 10:33. That's what we call astronomical spring. For lack of a better term, we like to dumb it down in the meteorological field, because what that does, you start on the first of a day, you run through the last of the month. So spring runs March, April, May, and then summer picks up June, July, August. But another thing that does is actually normalize the number of days within the season. If you go by the equinoxes and go by the solstices, you could end up anywhere with 89 to 93 days within a season. This kind of keeps it within, say 1 to 2 days. Keeps it just a little tighter time frame wise. And speaking of, our daily almanac will show us if we go back to December 1, the beginning of meteorological winter, we are still about 7/10 of an inch down on our normal precipitation amounts. As we transition into what's going to be a wonderful beginning to this spring and the month of March, temperatures right now, 20-degree difference in some places, but eventually up into the 70s for our afternoons, not only for today, but Tanya, we'll be able to ride this out the duration of the work and school week. A little bit of that needed rain perhaps on Saturday into Sunday, but temperatures really don't change until we get to next Monday.
Okay, well, I mean, even that cold front that's coming through next week isn't that drastic.
Nothing compared to what we experienced periodically through February.
We'll be like, oh, 46, it's freezing. All right, thanks, Michael. A guilty plea leads to a manslaughter conviction for a liberal Missouri man and his connection to the death of an Oronogo woman in February last year. Ryan O'Neill gets 10 years in prison for first-degree involuntary manslaughter. Last year, O'Neill was driving a pickup on Highway 43 when he crashed head-on into an SUV. 23-year-old Sevy Davison was driving that SUV. She died at the hospital. An early Monday morning car crash takes the life of a Southwest Missouri woman. It happened on Lawrence County Road 1110, a mile west of Miller. 50-year-old Lori Reed of Miller, Missouri was a passenger in a car that left the road and overturned a little before 2 a.m. yesterday morning. She was pronounced dead 90 minutes later. The driver was in serious condition. As the crisis in Ukraine unfolds, the international community has found many ways of assisting the embattled country. Some of those ways are coming from right here in the U.S. Here's one such story.
You're leaving your home without anything. You're going into a battlefield. It's scary.
Stephen Calley has been volunteering with the AFIA Foundation, a crisis response nonprofit, for more than a decade. He's wearing yellow and blue in solidarity with Ukraine as he packs pallets of wound care, surgical kits, and portable biomedical equipment.
At this time, we are doing major and minor surgery kits. And basically, there's three types of appliances that you need. One are scissors, sharp instruments.
The nonprofit is working with several groups on the ground, including the U.S.-Ukraine Foundation that serves military and field hospitals located across 260 miles of front lines on the Russia-Ukraine border.
When I received word yesterday that the children's cancer ward in Kyiv was bombed, it's turned this into a completely different level of response and compassion.
Daniel Booten started the nonprofit, which diverts medical supplies that would otherwise have been discarded.
Millions of pounds of medical supplies that are available in this country every year for donation.
They're working with several partners, including the main military hospital in Kyiv, as well as officials at the Ukrainian-Polish border. These volunteers say they felt compelled to do their part.
When everything was breaking and they told us we would be packing like amputee kits and wound care, it was very hard to process and still is. I mean, that's a very emotional thing. This is like a volunteer experience that I'll never forget.
BP appeals a court decision allowing Mulberry, Kansas to sue the company over soaring natural gas prices last year. BP, or British Petroleum, filed 2 documents last week that indicate it wants to shut down a lawsuit filed by the small Crawford County town. One document seeks permission to appeal a February 8th ruling by Chief District Judge Lori Bolting Fleming before the case goes to trial. In that ruling, Fleming removed the Mulberry city government from the lawsuit, but allowed individual residents to proceed with the action, which claims BP's price hikes during a deep freeze in February of 2021 were price gouging. The second court document outlines BP's belief that it cannot be sued by the residents because they do not buy their gas directly from BP. On this date in 1872, President Ulysses S. Grant signs a bill creating the nation's first national park at Yellowstone. Before the Civil War, only a handful of trappers and hunters had ventured into the area, and it remained largely a mystery. It wasn't until 1871 when a government geologist named Ferdinand Hayden directed an expedition into the area, accompanied by William Jackson, a pioneering photographer, and Thomas Moran, a brilliant landscape artist, to make a visual record of the expedition. Their images captured not just visual proof of the area's wonders, but the attention of Congress as well. A year later, Congress would set aside some 2 million acres to establish Yellowstone across 3 states, and the Yellowstone Act of 1872 would set the precedent for future national parks.
There's also an article that recently came out in the Wall Street Journal over the weekend about the 10 least visited national parks in the United States and exactly what they entail and what you can find there. So I'd love that we do that. And if you're interested in finding Mother Nature's treasures that perhaps nobody else has had a chance to stumble upon, make sure you check out that article. It really was neat. All right, Tanya, our temperatures for today going to be up into the 70s. That means almost a 45-degree jump in some places because we're still sitting at 27 and 26 in Parsons and Neodesha. Joplin right now at 46, but a great way to start March with sunny skies and warm temps.
And that's a look at our top news stories. Coming up this half hour on the KOAM Morning News, the rise of cryptocurrency has also led to a rise in online scams. We're going to show you one woman's story and its cautionary tale. Plus, the invasion of Ukraine seems to be on just about everyone's mind. We want to know what you think aid to the embattled country should look like. We let you weigh in. We'll be right back. In Consumer Watch this morning, the growing popularity of cryptocurrency has also led to a rising number of scams. One woman says she lost millions to someone she thought was a friend. Cheryl Viandoko reports.
He said his name was Jimmy.
handsome, young, and in the U.S. alone. Last October, Cindy Tsai says he accidentally messaged her on WhatsApp.
Are you Linda from the pet store? And I messaged back and said, wrong number.
That seemingly innocent exchange quickly escalated into Cindy sharing personal information, including her cancer diagnosis.
Very much a comfort for me at that time. In my mind, it was a relationship.
Within weeks, Jimmy showed Cindy how much money he was making trading in cryptocurrency and offered to help her invest on the platform he was using.
So he said, you're not giving me a dime. This is completely controlled by you.
Jimmy gave her a link, and Cindy set up the account.
And they'll click on those hyperlinks. It will take them to a site that is either spoofed or very close to the legitimate site.
What was the total amount you invested?
Everything said and done, $2.5 million.
The FBI estimates in 2021, 24,000 people fell victim to these type of scams, losing about $1 billion.
With cryptocurrency, it's different. If you give somebody your digital wallet, that is gone instantly. There is no clearing process, so it's very difficult for law enforcement to track that.
Cindy says she became suspicious after having a hard time withdrawing money. But by then, it was too late.
It's interesting the disconnect between your logical self and your emotional self. And I think I was probably the most vulnerable in my entire life. I desperately wanted to believe him.
Cindy says that clouded her judgment. She's now sharing her story to help prevent others from becoming a victim of this scam. Cheryl Fiandaca, CBS News, Boston.
Authorities say do not invest with people you've only met online. Do your research. Do not click on hyperlinks for trading platforms, and never share banking information. Well, stocks were mixed on Monday. The Dow dropped 166 points. The Nasdaq added 56. The S&P 500 lost 10. It was a volatile session on Wall Street as investors attempted to gauge how Russia's invasion of Ukraine will affect the global economy. Heavy sanctions have tanked the ruble, Russia's currency, 30%. It's now worth less than a penny. Well, many businesses are punishing Russia as well. Disney will stop releasing films there, and Netflix is blocking state TV channels. General Motors became the latest automaker to announce it will not export cars to the country, possibly the one with the biggest consequences. Oil company Shell said yesterday it is joining BP in exiting its ventures in Russia. Airbnb is offering free short-term housing to 100,000 refugees fleeing Ukraine. The company is looking for hosts in Poland, Germany, Hungary, and Romania to help. The stays are funded by Airbnb's nonprofit arm. That's it for Consumer Watch. Let's go over to Michael for our something to talk about.
Thank you, Tanya. This morning on the KOM News Now Facebook page in our morning Insta poll, helping Ukraine. Joanna Rack is an American student in Poland. She's in Krakow, finishing up her medical degree. So when the war came to Ukraine, she wanted to help out refugees fleeing to Poland. She's even purchased supplies for those who were uprooted in the conflict. Brings us to our question: how do you think we, kids in the United States, should help Ukraine? Gave you several choices right now. 71% of you say we should do so with armed forces. 15% saying continue as we are. 11% say other. Only 3% say we shouldn't be there. Appreciate everybody's engagement each and every morning. Remember, you can connect to us via our Facebook page at KOAM News Now, or go directly to the poll, koamnewsnow.com/vote. We'll be back, celebrate birthdays and anniversaries, but first we check in with Nate, a look at what's coming up on CBS Mornings.
I'm Nate Burleson. Coming up on CBS Mornings, Tony checks in with the worker whose industry was upended by the pandemic. See how his situation has gotten worse, not better. That's coming up on CBS Mornings.
We take this time to honor today's four-state hero, Chester Shoemaker. The Oronogo, Missouri native served in the U.S. Army. He was stationed in the South Pacific with an anti-tank company. To Tech Sergeant Chester Shoemaker, we thank you. Today's four-state hero.
The birthday list begins with Cooper Saporito. I tell you what, if he got that rack all there by himself, gonna be some good eats around the family right there. Happy number 5, Mr. Cooper.
All right, in Chanute, turning 10 years old this year, it's time to celebrate from Matthew Clouch. Happy birthday.
And that's a look at warmer times ahead. I like that picture, Matthew. Kiana Moore, she is celebrating the big 2-0. Kiana, a very happy birthday to you in St. Paul.
Randy Stitt.
Ah, I knew somebody would turn up.
Randy is 32 years old. His birthday was actually yesterday. Because you know he's one of those leap day birthdays back in 1988. All right. Randy is celebrating in Iowa.
Happy birthday, Randy. Thank you for letting us celebrate with you. I think that's great. Heather Winter, she is turning 32 as well. Miss Heather, a happy birthday to you. She's also in St. We have a couple parties in St. Paul.
And let's see, we've got Jennifer Heimer is 36 years old this year, celebrating in Fort Scott.
Kayla Campbell, a happy 37th to you. Wonderful picture there as Kayla celebrates in Pittsburgh.
All right, and Dr. Iftikhar Ali celebrating birthday number 51 this year. Special happy birthday wishes coming from your coworkers at Ali Internal Medicine in Joplin.
Monique Valdez celebrating her 26th birthday right next to Dr. Ali. I wonder when they got that picture, the two, if they knew that it was going to be sent in. Monique, a very happy birthday to you, and please know that this also comes with love from all your coworkers.
There'll be a party at Ali Internal Medicine today, sure. And Carl Thornton celebrating birthday number 67 in Thayer, Kansas. Happy birthday, Carl.
I told you St. Paul's the place to be, didn't I? Debbie Schoenhofer, she's celebrating her 71st birthday right there. Miss Debbie, wonderful picture of you and the fam, and a very happy birthday.
All right. In Chautauqua, Terry Hildebrand turning 74 years old this year. Hope it's a great one, Terry.
All right, in Webb City, Lena Wadena is celebrating a birthday. And Lena, I want you to know that birthday wishes come from 6 kids, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren who say they loved you so much. And what a gorgeous picture. Lena is turning 85 in Webb City.
Eunice Shrimplin turning 87 years old this year in Chanute. Happy birthday, Eunice.
Run out to Fort Scott, and that's where we find Jennifer Tate celebrating a birthday. Speaking of wonderful warm weather, what a gorgeous picture right there. Happy birthday, Jennifer.
All right, and Glenn and Brandy Green are celebrating their 2nd anniversary. Well, kind of. They were married on Leap Day 2020. So they'll get to celebrate their first again.
I wondered yesterday
yeah.
when we started the leap year birthdays if we get a leap year anniversary. Congratulations, Glenn and Brandy. That's great. And Martin and Cindy White in Scammon. They're celebrating their 26th anniversary. Look at the decorations that they put together right there for the holidays. My goodness, a wonderful picture. And that's a beautiful, beautiful household as well. Congratulations, Martin and Cindy. And they're in Scammon.
All right, and also on our birthday list, Chris Palmer turning 56 years old in Crestline. Rayanne McNara is celebrating birthday number 86 in Arma. And guess what? We got another leap year baby.
Yeah, and guess what? How many consecutive years is this that our good friend Francis Pyle has just denied us with a picture?
Oh, you only get a picture on leap year. No, I don't know.
I've been here. I've been back like through 2 leap years already, and Francis has not done it. Francis, you know we love you. I shall track you down. And I forgot that she was a leap year baby. Francis, a very happy birthday to you. We love Francis. And then Stephen Bacon, I forgot about this. Yeah, Stephen Bacon has a birthday right behind Francis. That's Francis's brother. And happy birthday to Stephen in Pittsburgh. Scott Franklin, he is celebrating number 42. And in Carl Junction, a happy anniversary. Dennis and Sue Eckhart are celebrating today.
In Parsons, Zella Gamblian turning 48 years old this year.
Now tell me where to party at.
Yeah. Let's go down to Miami. Welcome to Miami. Edna Hardy turning 51. Yeah, you heard it. But I said it. Edna Hart is 51. Randy Ash is 67. And Jane Miller also celebrating a birthday because the party is in Miami.
Okay, you make me want to replace Bienvenido a Miami with Feliz Cumpleaños a Miami with that. That was well played by you. That was awesome. And Rachel Johnson has a birthday just not too far from Miami. After we hit up the Miami and get our fill of birthday cake there, we'll just run out to Welch and wish Rach a very happy birthday as well. And a happy birthday and happy anniversary to all, whether you're celebrating on this, the 1st of March, or whether we're catching up from the day that doesn't exist this year and you're a leap year baby or a leap year married couple. That's where you can send them into birthdays at KOAMTV.com. You can also use our website, KOAMNewsNow.com. Here's Tanya Bach with a very important birthday announcement.
That's right. You can be a part of the KOAM Birthday Club by going to our website and signing up. And once you do, you'll get special deals from local businesses. Go to KOAMNewsNow.com and sign up for the KOAM Birthday Club today.
Coming up here in just a bit when we transition over to KOAM Morning News on Fox 14, introduce you to a couple. They were enjoying a seafood restaurant for their anniversary of all things. Well, they ended up finding a little something special in their appetizers. You're not going to want to miss exactly what was part of the clam fest right there. That's right, Mother Nature's finest. We'll be back with more KOAM Morning News right after this.
Here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. A Southwest Missouri woman is dead from an early Monday morning car crash. It happened on Lawrence County Road 1110, a mile west of Miller. 50-year-old Lori Reed of Miller, Missouri, was a passenger in a car that left the road and overturned a little before 2 yesterday morning. She was pronounced dead 90 minutes later. The driver was in serious condition. A liberal Missouri man pleads guilty to manslaughter charges and is sentenced in connection with the death of an Oronogo woman in February of last year. Ryan O'Neill gets 10 years in prison for first-degree involuntary manslaughter. Last year, O'Neill was driving a pickup on Highway 43 when he crashed head-on into an SUV. 23-year-old Sevie Davison was driving that SUV. She died at the hospital. BP wants to appeal a court's decision that allowed Mulberry, Kansas to sue over soaring natural gas prices last year. BP filed 2 documents last week that indicated it wants to shut down a lawsuit filed by the small Crawford County town. One document seeks permission to appeal a February 8th ruling by Chief District Judge Lori Bolting Fleming before the case goes to trial. In that ruling, Fleming removed the Mulberry city government from the lawsuit, but allowed individual residents to proceed with the action, which claims BP's price hikes during a deep freeze in February of 2021 were price gouging. The second court document outlines BP's belief that it cannot be sued by the residents because they do not buy their gas directly from BP. Oklahoma Congressman Markwayne Mullin says he will run for the U.S. Senate seat that is coming open after Senator Jim Inhofe's surprise announcement he's retiring before his term is up. Mullin said in a video message that he planned to enter the race as expected political shakeups began. Mullin is a plumbing company owner and a citizen of the Cherokee Nation. He's currently serving his 5th term representing Oklahoma's 2nd Congressional District. That's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door.
Gorgeous start to the beginning of March. How about sunny skies and temperatures? Say around 70 to 72 degrees. Going to stay dry and windy. Elevated fire concerns for the rest of the week, but above average temperatures for our first full week of March. Don't even have to worry about a cold front hitting us until we get to next week.
Well, coming up today at noon, we're making shortcut meatball soup in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen.
Morning news continues on KOAM. CBS Mornings coming up next. Thousands of Ukrainian women and children flee the country, leaving the men behind to fight Russian soldiers. Coming up, the emotional toll this is having on Ukrainian citizens.
Or you can switch on over with us on Fox 14, where your only local morning news continues this morning. Award season starts to heat up as the Screen Actors Guild hands out their statues over the weekend. We're going to catch you up on the night's winners and surprise moments.
Wraps it up for this Tuesday edition. Get some fresh air. Be safe. We'll do this all again tomorrow morning.
And we're going to do it again today at noon.